Yo, what's up everybody? I've been wanting to make this video for a long time and we're just gonna finally just sit down and do it. So this is gonna be how to draw graffiti letters. Let's get into it. Couple quick background things. If you want to get good at drawing letters, focus on drawing letters first. All that style bullshit will come later, like way later. Just focus first on just literally drawing letters and getting the letter forms down. I started messing around drawing letters when I was in like 6th, 7th grade, and now I'm 30. So it's just been like a lot of like repetition and doing things like over and over and over again. And that's really all it is. That's really the real secret, the real key. You can kind of turn off the video now if you want. It's just repetition, just doing it over and over and over and over and over again. And then when you finish, do it more and do that over and over again. Cap, the famous graffiti artist, once said, more, the object is always more. So without further ado, let's get started.
Especially with me, the object is more. Not the biggest and the beautifulest, but more.
So this mainly took so long because I just could not figure out a good way to film it. I actually filmed this previously using my iPad, but I went to go slow down the footage and it was just way too choppy. So it didn't work. Had to ditch the voiceover and the footage, and we're gonna restart and do it over again. So a couple quick things to begin. Tools. If you want to do this like just the quick and easy, cheap way, go to the dollar store and get yourself a notebook like this with lines. The lines will come in handy. You'll see why later. And then get a ballpoint pen. That's really all you need. That's really all you need. If you want to be a little bit extra, get a highlighter. I don't have one handy. This is yellow marker. But you can get a highlighter. That also comes in handy. And then a thin black marker. That can also come in handy. But really all you need is a ballpoint pen. That's really that's the best tool for practicing drawing letters, is the ballpoint pen, in my opinion. And if you Google ballpoint pen sketches or ballpoint pen graffiti sketches, you'll see why. So I broke this down into like 3 basic categories. So blocks and bubbles are actually super similar. And we're gonna kind of start off with blocks, because I feel like blocks really are kind of the simplest way to explain how to draw letters. So we're going to use the word shape as our test word or whatever. So when you do bubble letters, it's literally just drawing boxes, and you probably want to make sure they're all kind of the same size. Or if it's your style to make them different sizes, you can do it that way. But focus on style way later. Just for now, focus on the basics, just drawing letters. So this is, really the most simplest form of drawing letters. So there you go. There's literally the word shape, and you can add a shadow here. Block letters at their simplest form are pretty much just like that. You can just practice literally drawing squares and then figuring out what your letter would look like. For instance, we did an uppercase E here, which, if we wanted to, we could add another line here. But maybe a lowercase e, would look like that. So once you kind of master that, you can kind of branch out and start using these blocks in different ways. So maybe your H, instead of being just a square with the line, is something like this, where you're using your blocks to, this essentially could be a big square with this stuff punched out. So let's do an S, for instance. So there's our S right here in kind of its most simplest form, right? But you could also do an S. So that's why you kind of want to get the lined paper, especially for when you're doing block letters. It can really come in handy for kind of practicing getting all your blocks the same size. And you're going to want to put it this way because you'll see, makes more sense. So for the letter S, obviously, you can go like this. That's definitely an S. But you can also go like this. So that could also be an S. You can also add another block there and another block there. So, I mean, essentially, this is just our big square, but instead of just punching out these lines here, you're punching out this piece, and this piece, and this piece, and this piece. You know, so it gets a little bit more detailed, it's a little bit more complicated. And for sake of demonstration, I'm using the black marker, but you might want to practice doing this just with light pen, you know, with the light touch on the pen, because then you can come back and block it in and it will actually look pretty neat. So your S can be like that, you know, and then once you kind of get a little more in depth with it, you know, you can kind of be more free, I don't know. And maybe instead of, maybe you're working your blocks across the lines like this, something like that. I don't know. But really, what you want to do is just practice doing it simple. The simpler, the better. You'll find that there's like just certain letters you seem to like, or certain cases you seem to like more. I always kind of will stick with the same case as far as like, I won't mix uppercase and lowercase, as you know, as far as here I did all uppercase. I don't like lowercase letters so much unless I'm doing like bubble letters. But practice doing the simple, like super simple stuff. The simpler, the better. That'll help you in the long run. So practice doing stuff like this really for the longest time. Next on my list, we kind of worked through this S up here, right? So next, let's kind of do bubble letters, because I feel like bubble letters are probably the next logical step, even though shapes might seem like they are. Bubble letters are a lot like block letters, but instead of doing these like super squared out shapes, you're just rounding them off. And you can be pretty loose with it. It's just kind of doing the same thing, but just with like looser, with more rounded, looser shapes. You know, this in the same way, you can get more detailed with it. You know, our S might, in its simplest form, be like this, but maybe you kind of mess with the top part, you know, or instead of doing one line all the way through, you do something like that, or you can make the top part even squared and make the bottom part round. You know, all kinds of different stuff. And then you can even start working with the bottom part. So I mean, it doesn't always have to be just a curve. You know, it can be, you know, something like this. You can have the, you know, little gap in both sides. And then once you kind of get more comfortable, you can kind of start doing them in different ways. And then remember too, like, you know, doesn't always have to be just like that. I mean, it can be, you know, like the letter 5 is also, I mean, technically an S. So, I mean, you can like trace that with your bubbles. And I mean, you pretty much have one. But I'm sorry, I'm focusing too much on one letter. But that's pretty much the idea. Very rounded bubble letters. I don't know, there's the word episode. That's, you know, here would be a block letter, you know, F, B, you know, but, you know, very quickly. I mean, that's just kind of, you know, what it would be in bubble letters. So it's just the same thing. You're just doing them very loose. And another thing that's cool with the lined paper is you can do like super basic stuff too. And this, you know, this is like super fun, I think. And it kind of goes back to the block letter technique a little bit, but like, let's say you want each letter to be the same size, you know? So, I mean, you want each letter to take up 3 lines. So the other day I was sketching the word hurts, and I don't know, it just looks cool. So let's do that one again. So our H is going to be here. As you can see, it neatly takes up 3 spaces. And we'll do our U the same height. And then we'll make it curve right there. Round it off a little bit, and there you go, 3 lines. The R is a little bit tricky, right? So we'll draw our shapes in there. So we got our rectangle here, and then we need to have a U C shaped thing right there, and it's going to go over 3 spaces, and you want to make sure it's uniform in the way it rounds out, you know, the way it rounds off. So it's only going to go to the second line here, and then, you know, you want to make sure it's the same size. It's going to be something like that. And then our other line is going to come, that was probably the wrong angle actually, something like this. I don't know, it's not perfect. We'll figure that out when we do the other final outline. It's not too far off. Our T is easy, just takes up 3 and then goes down. Our S is a little bit tricky, right? So I'm gonna do one line here and then one line there. And I don't know, it's gonna be something like that pretty much. So let's come through with our black marker. So this is like a really basic way to do it. But I mean, if you really want to get good at drawing letters, draw them in their very simplest forms and you'll get good at it really quick. Do something like, I should have went all the way with it. There was no point to cut it off because there's nothing in the way. So again, you have to think about the relationship between the letters, and the relationship here probably really isn't perfect between all these because you could throw this T a little bit over and tuck this S in a little bit farther as well. But then again, it just kind of depends what you're going for. So yeah, I don't know. That's letters in their simplest form. And it's just, that's probably one of my most favorite techniques to do, is just this, you know, knowing, like almost like drawing a font pretty much. That's actually pretty much what this is. Because you're trying to make everything as neat and as uniform as possible. I don't know. That B isn't perfect, but you kind of get the idea. It's almost kind of like the idea of like sign painting, which is like a really old technique when they used to literally just paint signs. You know, and you want to do your letters as perfect as they can possibly be. All right, let's talk about drawing shapes. I think this is going to be kind of the main part of the video, because I feel like this is drawing letters at its core. But when it comes down to it, you know, just focus on drawing shapes, you know. They don't always have to be perfect, you know. You can kind of be abstract with it. You just kind of want to let the letter kind of flow out onto the page. If it helps, you can kind of do a hand style first, or kind of do something like, you know, drawn out first and then kind of do your letters based on that. Or you can kind of just start sketching and just kind of see what happens. I was never really good at drawing like people or like anything like realistic, but when it came to like doing like letter forms and things, or doing like calligraphy, I seemed to be decent at that. And it's just about, you know, symmetry and what looks, you know, aesthetic, for lack of a better word. And just using different shapes and letting the letter flow, you know, kind of flow out. So you kind of saw me build that S there. You know, using those different shapes. And I don't know, when you're doing it this way, it almost kind of feels like you're like, you know, adding armor or something onto like a tank. You know, you want to make sure you do it in like a very like tasteful but strategic, in a way that like kind of makes sense, you know. So shape is kind of a cool word actually, because this A makes everything very symmetrical in the middle, you know. So I'm going to make this A like way bigger. So as you can see, like this A is really, I mean, it's going to look pretty cool, at least I think it will. But really all it is these two shapes, you know, this other shape through it. And then you can even add like a serif up top, you know. Let's see how that would look. Not really sure. I think I kind of like the more symmetrical one, but play it by ear. And then our P is, again, just going to be, let's see, let's make sure our A is nicely defined here. Another part of it, along with the drawing shapes and, you know, making the letters look cool or look, you know, look nice, look readable, the big thing to keep in mind is you want to practice letters on their own, obviously. You know, practice letters, get good at those. But one thing to keep in mind when you're drawing words and putting letters down on a page is you want to make sure you keep in mind the relationship between each of the letters, because if you have like, you know, one that's super big and then one that's small and another one that's small and like one that's super big and then like, I don't know, if it's just there's no rhyme or reason to it, it won't really look, it won't look cool. You know, I mean, it won't look, if there's no rhyme or reason to it, then it won't read nicely. And I don't know, you'll notice when they have like kind of beauty to them, they kind of just look better and read better when just there's like some rhyme or reason to why the letters are laid out the way they are. And you'll find out too, I mean, like I was saying before, you'll like certain letters better, and you might even find the letters you like look good in a certain order. So, you know, even if they don't make sense, just run with it and let that be, you know, your word. You know, it's good too to focus on, you know, maybe one word at first and just try to make that, you know, get good at that one word. Or you can focus on a bunch of different ones, whatever, you know, you think would work better for you. Because you could even make this into a hustle, you know. I mean, you can like do your friends' names and things. You know, you can get an airbrush, do your friends' names, and like, you know, I don't know, you can totally make this into like a hustle, and you know, kind of get paid for, you know, doing letters. And you know, if you do them long enough and you get really good, I mean, you can do murals and all kinds of like really cool stuff. So it's not just something you have to use for like, you know, illicit activities or whatever. It's definitely like a useful skill to have, you know, knowing how to do this kind of stuff or draw letters. I mean, if you consider this good, I don't know. I think it looks cool. But so I mean, from there, I mean, you can do all kinds of stuff, and you can just, you know, highlight it with the yellow. We hit it with like a black outline and a black shadow. I kind of like them when they just kind of like take them from here and then shadow them. I think they look really cool. So maybe we'll try something like that. We'll just kind of keep talking for a minute. But yeah, so I've been drawing letters for a long time, and I mean, I never really did anything crazy with it, but it's definitely kept my hands busy in a lot of stupid work meetings and boring days at school, that's for sure. Just sketching in my notebooks and all that stuff. And I've been trying to decide if I want to show some of them. Maybe I will. If I choose to do so, I'll probably do that in this section here. But I like the ballpoint pen sketches a lot because you can see every single pen stroke, and it kind of gives it a real like human element to it. And as you can see, I'm kind of like doing the shadow in like the fill first, then coming back with the outline. I don't know, I feel it kind of looks nice that way. And we are going to just get rid of this serif here and go straight down. That looks much better. And some people have called out my shadows. I don't know why. I said they don't look right. I mean, I don't know. They all face the right way and everything. So I mean, the perspective's right. I don't know what could really be wrong, but anyway. So yeah, I just put everything kind of running the same way and then outline it, and there you go. You got the 3D complete. So I don't know, I like a basic big pen sketch. I think these look the coolest. In all my school notebooks, there was millions of these, all kinds of different words and all kinds of just different techniques that I would try just to make them look cool, like the things that I would see on the different graffiti websites and things. But this has always kind of been my favorite type of like way to draw words is doing these like shapes. So on this one, the M threw me off a little bit. I hadn't really planned for that. But I was thinking like to make it 3, I don't know, I couldn't really figure that out on the fly, so that's kind of what came out. But I kept it in just because like it doesn't always have to be perfect. As long as everything is the same weight, just meaning like, or consistent weight rather. Especially in this type of style, if you even really want to call it that. But as far as just like making sure each of the letter, every piece, you know, is kind of roughly the same size, that'll really help it just feel consistent. So if you can just like do that, then, you know, you don't have to really all stay in the lines all the time. It's really not always going to have lines. But just as long as like consistency really is the biggest thing. And I mean that goes for all of this stuff, you know, because there's consistency here, you know, in the fact that, you know, this letter is large, this one gets smaller, this one gets large again, this one's smaller, kind of tucks in, and this one's also large, you know, just kind of, and then the fact that it's symmetrical, you know, it kind of goes in like this like diamondy shape, you know, so consistency really is the key. And then again here, all these letters, you know, the size of the letters is pretty much the same size all the way through. So there's consistency in the font, or consistency in the letters. You know, and again with the consistency, you know, it's same size, you know, same line shape. You know, you don't want to have like, you know, a big one there, like a big like gap there, like for like no reason. I mean, I guess you could because it's kind of symmetrical, but I guess a better example would be like you don't want to have like just one random like large gap there and the rest of these be just little lines. Because that would just make no sense. So yeah, that's really what it is. Consistency and just making sure everything kind of looks uniform and is still readable. And then focus on your letters and your letter forms and all that stuff before you do style. Style can come later, way later. And then as far as tools go, really all you need is lined paper and a ballpoint pen. Hope that helps. If you got any questions, drop them down below. I'll make another video like this in the future if I think of like more tips and things like that, or other easier ways to explain this. And yeah, that's it for tonight. Thanks so much for watching. Peace.